This is the pre-interview for my AIT compare and contrast assignment, and I'm gonna be interviewing my friend Jesus, and unfortunately, he's not in the state right now. So the only way I can conduct this research with him is mainly if I call him. So this is the explanation as to why it's conducted via phone call. Again, the research study. Do you consent to be on the camera and to partake in the study?
Yes, sir.
All right. um, you already know basically that the premonition of the test, right?
Yeah.
Um, have you taken a test like this before?
No.
What do you expect for your results to show?
To be honest, they'll probably be a little bit biased. I don't really know exactly which way my results will be biased towards, because I mean I don't really take a test like this before, but I feel like they'll probably be biased or leaning more towards one direction.
Uh, do you think you're aware of your own biases or stereotypes?
I feel like yeah, I have a pretty good understanding of my biases and or how I perceive other people, just solely due to my past experiences with them.
Yeah. Is it mainly based on past experiences?
For me, it would be mainly past experiences and experiences that I guess I've heard from other people or experiences that I've witnessed, uh, from one person to another person.
Do you think other people are aware of their biases?
No, there's definitely people out there that aren't aware of their biases. They'll probably say they're biased towards, I guess, one side or the other. But I mean, at the end of the day, you don't really know your own bias. Like me, how I say I'm biased towards one side, I could really be biased towards another side. It's like everybody has their own connotations to how they perceive things because of the experiences they've had. But at the same time, you don't really know how biased you are. You could say you're one way. You could say you lean one way or the other, but I mean, deep down inside, you could really just be biased in the opposite direction. So I feel like many people don't really have I feel like many people have a general idea of where they lean towards, but they don't have I'd say they're not fully, I guess, fully aware of where they lean towards.
Okay. We're about to conduct the test. Thank you, Jesus. I'll talk to you in a bit.
You say Jesus, not Eric.
So this is my second participant. What's your name?
Jessica Sanchez.
Okay, that's my sister. And basically, before we start, do you consent to learn about this, to take the test, and also to be in video?
Yes.
Okay. So before the test, you already pretty much know what it's about, right?
Yes.
So have you ever taken a test like that?
No.
Do you feel as if you have a bias towards people?
Yes. Yes, I believe so. But to a certain extent.
Do you think...
I say no, but like maybe a little bit. We all are biased.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we're all biased.
Has there been like moments in your life, like past experiences, the way you grew up, that made you feel a certain way about certain people?
Yes.
Okay. And if, like, let's say you could categorize people based on like images or just objects, could you like categorize people based on that?
I believe subconsciously, maybe we could.
Subconsciously.
because of our bias. But of course, I'm not sure.
I mean, how do you feel about implicit bias?
My opinion on implicit, what is it called? Implicit bias. My opinion on implicit bias is that, of course, we don't want to believe that we're biased, but we definitely all are biased. It's all based on our behavior, our environment, the way we grew up, experiences. So it's definitely possible to categorize certain things or certain people because of our subconscious.
So you're going to be taking the weapons IAT, and what do you think your score would be?
I think my score will be maybe a little association with certain race, but of course, like I said, we all are a little biased. Yeah. I think that I will strongly associate weapons with white people, and that of course I try not to be biased, but all of us kind of associate and have a little bias in us, so that is what I think I will score on the test. Little to no bias, but I might actually have some association with certain groups like white people with weapons.
Based on Jesus' background and his priest-test interviews and recordings, I predict that his IAT results on weapons conforming to white and black Americans will more so have a strong association to white Americans, and the harmless objects will be more so associated with black Americans. And for my other participant, my sister, for the IAT on weapons, based on her pre-test interview and just experiences that she has told, or she feels as if her bias heavily relies on that, I believe that her association to weapons will more so have a strong link to white Americans, whilst harmless objects are more so associated to black Americans. So do you feel the test accurately reflects your implicit attitudes or your bias?
I'd say not fully 100% fully reflects it, but it is correct. So it is mostly accurate, I guess, but not. I wouldn't say it's a fully 100% accurate.
Well, how did you feel when you were taking the test?
It was my first time taking that type of test, so it was definitely a little bit weird for me, I guess. Just going through, I had to be reading all the directions, and I guess that's one thing too. I was just at the beginning of the test, I wasn't really trying to pay more attention, and I was just reading everything very carefully and slowly. I was more or less taking my time, and I just got used to the pictures and the tapping. I guess my speed picked up.
So you think it was more cognitive instead of actual?
For me, yeah, it's a little bit more cognitive.
Were you surprised by the results, or do you think maybe they would have been different, or they should have been different?
I won't say I'm surprised by the results, but I'm definitely a little bit, I guess, a little bit thrown off by them. Because I thought certain areas would be a higher percentage than other areas would be. But, I mean, end of the day, I took the test and those are my results, so I can't really argue with it.
Would you like to clarify which ones you thought were gonna be higher?
I thought the strong automatic association of white Americans with weapons and black Americans with harmless objects would be a little bit higher, at least, or maybe the moderate one too, because like just personally based off my experiences, I've seen. I mean, not just black Americans and white Americans with weapons. I've just seen like all the races with weapons, but at the same time, just based off like where we live, I just feel like that's just kind of common to see people have like weapons for like protection or just have weapons to have them.
Okay. Thank you, Arion. I really appreciate this. Okay, so basically, you scored little to no association with white or black Americans to weapons or harm. Completely different. Do you feel like your test accurately reflects your implicit attitudes?
I think that it is accurate to some sense. I honestly thought I was going to score something different, but not really. I can't, like, it's understandable why I would score that, but I did kind of think, based on my past experiences and my personal life and my encounters, I guess I expected a different result.
How did you feel taking the test?
I felt confused. It was a little hard to remember everything, and I really had to think about it for a second. I kind of messed up sometimes, and I was like, "Oh my god, I pressed the wrong thing." But it was pretty interesting that something like that could measure our bias as well as our association with certain races and harm, I guess, or weapons.
So you weren't surprised by your results?
I was surprised because I honestly associate white people more with like that danger persona or more of like that weaponry concept. Just because growing up, I've always been self-conscious on how much they advocate for it. But I guess I wasn't surprised at the same time because I really don't really associate too much, just because I know that both sides do it for different reasons. As in, like, we live in a society where I guess they both use it for protection, but the way our society is built, white people kind of do it based on political pride as well as like I don't know, they're just very strong on their gun rights, I guess. And I believe as black people, they've been forced to kind of rely on that as protection because of all that they've been through in society and our system. I was a little surprised too because I've honestly never really been around white people, but white Americans, I guess. But our way of growing up, we were always in predominantly Hispanic and black communities. So I guess that's also why I expected my results to kind of lean more on like weaponry associated with white people, just because growing up, they were always considered we were not around them too much, and the things that we did experience with them were not positive experiences. So that's why I did think I was gonna lean more towards like weaponry associated with white people, but it would make sense too as to why I would have little to no association, just because I haven't really experienced the white community too much.
So before Jesus had stated, or I had also theorized that we both had theorized that Jesus would have a strong association with weapons to white Americans and less harmful objects associated to black Americans. Once research was conducted, Jesus had an automatic association for harmless objects with black Americans and weapons with white Americans. Um, so, although my hypothesis was wrong, um, it was still leaning towards the fact that he does slightly believe that uh, white Americans are more so associated with weapons rather than black Americans. On the other hand, my sister as well hypothesized that she would also fall under that association of white Americans with weapons and harmless objects associated with black Americans. And it was a strong association. She ended up having suggested little or no automatic association between weapons and harmless objects between white Americans and black Americans. So she believed that there was really no distinct relation. If there was, it was very minimal. They weren't consistent at all with my expectations, and they really did challenge my assumptions of what I thought their bias would be, mainly because of how we, especially me and my sister, grew up. And as far as my friend Jesus, yeah, me and him practically grew up together too. So that's why I based it on past experiences, and it's heavily implied that past experiences and behaviors that we have gone through pretty much base somewhat of our bias and stereotypes that we actively use in the world unknowingly or knowingly. So that's mainly what I based it on. I would also like to add to the final part from my previous statement that, as I stated in my essay, I felt as if an in-group dynamic definitely came across or came into play in this scenario for me and these test results, and why I believe that they would achieve said test results. Because I also, if they would have had asked me to conduct this this study, or they would have tested me to do it as well, I would have believed that I would have also associated white Americans with weapons. And the reason I strongly associated past experiences with their implicit biases is because I forgot to state what the article's name was. It's basically called Implicit Bias and Experience Influence Overall but Not Relative Trustworthiness Judgment of Other Race Faces. It was published in the Scientific Reports on July 11, 2024. And I already stated the authors, and that's one of my cited resources. There's an article that I've read by Chung, Olivia, Quimpo, Nathan, and James that basically they did a study that examined the effects of implicit social bias and experience on trustworthiness judgments on other race faces. And overall, they found that trustworthiness ratings for other race faces were influenced by both implicit bias and the experience with individuals of other races. And I'm looking for my camera. Yeah, that's basically why I heavily relied on that idea of past experiences.